Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. How are you doing, Jen?
Doing good. And this is Jen with the Fulfilled Feminine podcast, and I am talking with Ricki today. You're
Hi, everybody.
I'm so excited that you're on my podcast, and we just met recently for the first time. I met you because you invited me to a session, actually. And I do want to talk about that session just a little bit, if that's okay, about my perspective of it. But before I do that, do you want to just tell our participants today just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Ricki. I'm an eco-psychologist, which is basically combining ecology and psychology and looking at life through the lens of systems. And I'm also a family constellations facilitator, a life coach, a spiritual business coach. I basically help people through systemic change in their life. So, taking the entirety of their lives and really looking at it like a system and shifting it from point to point.
Wow, that's a lot. That sounds really, yeah, interesting. I've specifically, when you say that, the spiritual piece of it sticks out to me, and also the piece like the constellation piece, because I've heard that term a lot in this personal development world and spiritual world, but I had not come across yet any sort of facilitator that had done that with me. Can you talk a little bit about more about what exactly that is?
Yeah. Family constellations, we don't know how it works, but it works. And what it is it's basically using each other, using our own bodies to act as a channel or a portal into collective consciousness and collective wisdom. So, the closest thing I can explain it to is when you watch a flock of birds flying and then they just suddenly pivot to another direction or they're just moving in these like shapes together and there's no leader in a flock of birds. They all enter into this morphic field together. They all enter into this one mind part. Even though they're in different bodies, they become one consciousness. And family constellations is the ability to do that amongst people, where we'll be playing with an energy and you'll take on one sub part of that energy and I'll take on another part of that energy. And we'll just start sharing and unfurling wisdom and things that want to come through.
Wow, that's really powerful. At least it was for me when I sat with you. I remember, yeah, because we were really able to kind of embody the energy, or you did, of my business. And I was kind of embodying like my own energy, and we were able to have just a really, for me anyways, big breakthrough. I feel like just from that one session. Uh,
Totally.
I'm can I ask you a question? I'm curious about the family piece of it, like the word family. Do you find that, yeah, how does that connect? I'm curious.
Yeah, so it started off as a family therapy because a
Okay.
family is a system. So someone would take on the role of someone's mom, another person would be the dad, another person would be the siblings, and another person would take on the role of the client. And you'd watch the family dynamic play out. And that's the traditional family constellations. That was my training, was very traditional, just working with family dynamics. And then as the training evolved and got deeper, we started looking at other things like money, like business, like personality parts. It can really work with anything, but originally it's all about looking at systems. And that's what I love because everything's a system and nothing's an island. And same thing with your business. When we worked on it, it's not just your business is this thing over there. It's like your business is connected to your ego and your childhood and your future and your ability to receive. Like everything's a system. And when we look at it systemically, we're actually able to start transforming it and alchemizing it.
I love that. And I think also what I loved about it is what all the things that you just said is the very kind of left brain explanations of, yeah, how we all grow up in a family and it connects with our current life and our current story. But what was fascinating to me is when you did it, it was felt very right brained. The energy piece of that is kind of what I really felt from that one.
Yeah. And I really want to emphasize here like, we never met before that session.
Mhm.
I had no idea anything about your business. I never met you. And like this ability to just step into the field of collective consciousness and not only kind of get a general understanding of what businesses are like, but also to feel specifically your own business's imprint. That's what I love about family constellations is that you don't need any context and the truth will just come out
Hmm.
and it's individualized. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I love about it is you were able to tap into my feelings of disappointment was the energy at the time that was really coming up. And for those of you that are listening or watching today, I've done a lot of work surrounding emotions and like how to sit with my emotions. And so for you to just be able to like kind of to have another person tap into like my yeah, my own feeling or the collective feeling of behind the energy of my business was just really kind of mind blowing for me. And I think also just the fact the second time we sat together, we really together were able to pick up on kind of the shame that I was feeling that I didn't even realize like how much it was holding me back from reaching out to people, even to put myself more out there and kind of society and community and finding clients and things like that. And I would, if you're okay with it, I would love for you to talk about your story and your connection of helping women
Mm.
really get rid of their shame, or I don't know if getting rid of it's the right word, just really more, yeah, your view on that.
Totally. Totally. So, who can you say the question again? The question is
Sure.
how do
I
women,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I would curious to hear because when we met together, you really uncovered for me how important it is to not allow shame to keep you from showing yourself, stepping out, reaching out to people. And I really love the backstory as to how you were able to essentially you got me to reach out to people, but you had to me a powerful story as to like where that came from in your own life and
Yeah.
how you work with people with it today.
Yeah. So I'll say, and I'm glad that we're videotaping this because it's an imagery here. Every thread of energy comes like a scale. It goes across a line. And on one side of the extreme, it's dense. It's kind of like a fist. And on the other side, it's expansive. It's open. Yeah, the fist is open, palm up. And shame and abundance are two sides of the same coin. They're two sides of the same scale. So shame is that dense version of it. It's powerful, it's deep, it's dark. And most importantly, it will get you to sink all the way down. And it's a very dense energy. And also it's this fist. So it pulls you inwards into yourself and it isolates you. But if we do work on expanding it, alchemizing it, really letting it unfurl, what it actually is abundance. It's actually quite powerful. It's expansive, it's connective, it's generous, it shares and it connects you to the rest of the world.
Mm,
And that's one of my favorite things with constellation works is it doesn't just step into the collective consciousness and share what's alive now, but it also begins transforming it and unfurling it. So we started off with shame for you, but then we ended up stepping into your power and that abundance.
mm,
And it wasn't like we brought in a new energy, it was we just unfurled the energy that was already there and it was just showing up as shame and now it's abundance. So
mm,
the more work you do in constellations, the more you'll just start learning how everything that feels ugh is actually just a condensed version of something that feels lovely.
mm.
And it's
I
just,
love that.
yeah,
I love that explanation because I feel like you, yeah, painted just a really great metaphoric picture of what it looks like to have that energy so like contracted around something and then energetically to kind of play around with it and let it loose. As I know for me in my own life, I've dealt in the past with a lot of shame and, have really practiced sitting with that and not allowing it to run the show per se in my life. And it seems like I really needed to do some more work around that. And I know I also have read the book Existential Kink.
mm,
I don't know if you've read that. I
of
know that
course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you use some of that languaging, like the kinky languaging, I think when we talked before, and so I've been able to kind of go into my story lately and see how there's like this kinky side of me that like likes to hide, that likes to like not be seen, and so that's how I've been working with it a little bit. But I what I also would love to hear you talk about is how you said to me as well in high school, you no, not high school. Was it high school or college? I forget. You did this whole like wall and you guys,
Mm.
you want could you talk about that a little?
Yeah, totally,
That
totally.
really connected with me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a big part of shame is that shame tells you that you're alone in this experience.
Mm.
So whether that's getting a bad grade, being rejected by a romantic partner, getting no from a potential client, we get this like shutdown feeling. And it's not just the pain of being rejected. It goes into the story also of I can't share it with anyone. I'm bad. There's something wrong with me. No one else is experiencing this except me. So shame is an isolator. And really, it's an isolator, but beneath the isolator, there's just a human experience happening. Rejection. Like we've all been rejected, or most of us have gotten bad grades at some point. And when I was in high school, I was in the honors class, and there are two honors classes, and the other honors class had a wall of fame, which was they all put up their trophies and their good grades and everything like that. So all these girls seemed like they were thriving. And my class, my honors class, a lot of us were struggling and people were feeling worse about it because the other honors class had this wall of fame. It was like the 2011 version of Instagram.
Mm.
Like just everybody was doing so well and getting all these prizes. So I as like a joke, I made a wall of shame in the back of my classroom, which was just basically of like you can only put up a test if you got less than a 75. And what happened was, I think by the end of the week, that wall was more than half filled up. And by the end of the month, it was like you couldn't find a place on the wall. And there was like so many bad grades on there. And it was so helpful because what happened was it went from secrecy to celebration of like, we're all struggling in chemistry and all of us have a class that we're not good at. And like, some of us get sleep deprived and fail a quiz and it's okay. And what ended up happening was by having camaraderie in failure or camaraderie in struggle, it makes it actually quite enjoyable.
Mm.
And it actually ended up becoming powerful that the teachers made us take it down because it's like they didn't want us celebrating bad grades and parent teacher conferences were coming up and parents were showing up in the class. But it was such a great life lesson of the more we air out the things that we think we're alone in, the more we'll realize actually it's quite a shared experience.
That's really powerful because I feel like what we're doing is kind of changing our, yeah, like changing the relationship to shame and to rejection and making it not feel so overwhelming or so not stopping you or freezing you. Because for me in the past, it would freeze me.
Totally.
But you're saying like the more that you just do it, the more that you kind of even like poke fun at it or celebrate it, it doesn't have that like holder power, is what it sounds like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I run a entrepreneurship program for women who are trying to start their own businesses. And part of the weekly homeworks is for them to collect rejections. And that's like the most important thing I can transmit to anyone is the liberation of what happens when we get excited about getting rejected. Because if we get excited about getting rejected, that means sometimes we're going to get yeses. And it also means we're not going to be afraid to ask or invite or to offer. And if we get a yes, I'm like, that's fine, but that's not the main point. I want you to go and keep asking until you get 9 rejections, or I'm going on vacation. So I'll be gone for 3 weeks and I want my students to collect 23 rejections. And yeah, in order to collect 23 rejections, you're probably going to need to ask at least 40 people to invite them, to offer, to work with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because they say in like a lot of times in sales, it really is just a numbers thing, but we make it feel so personal for some
Yeah.
reason. When
Yeah.
we make it about ourselves when someone says no, but really it's probably more about them and not even about us.
and circumstances and the weather and their bank account, like there's so many factors involved with it. And when we don't realize it's a numbers thing and it's a probability thing, and really the market norm is 20% yes, 80% no. So if
Mm.
you ask three people and you got three no's, you're like, there's something wrong with me. And it's like, no, it's because you didn't ask 10 people yet. You're right on track. You got 3 out of 8 of the no's. Keep
Yeah,
asking. Yeah.
yeah, I love that. I've heard, oh, what is that lady that, do you know the lady that created Spanx?
Yes. I forgot her name.
I forget her name. It's
Shell or something? Yeah.
on the tip of my, um, but yeah, she just recently also created this shoe for women that's like a high heel that is also like super comfortable. So it's like a cross between like a basketball shoe or like a sneaker. Anyways, she just recently put that out, but I follow her sometimes and she talks about how growing up in her own life, her dad used to sit her and her brothers and sisters at the table. You know, a lot of times when you sit with family, there you're asking like, what is something you're thankful for?
Mhm.
Or, you know, you're yelling at each other, whatever happens at family tables. But like he would ask them, okay, what did you fail at today? Tell me like what did
Mhm.
you when you were in school, what did you try to do that you didn't succeed at? And so he would ask that question like every day. And so it got them comfortable with their relationship with failure. And I absolutely love that. I was like, I wish that that would have happened to me as a kid because I don't know. I don't know
Mm,
why I had that block around,
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
showing.
it makes sense. We've created a society in which there's accolades for succeeding, and there's no accolades for failing. There's no accolades for putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm aware that there's the like participation trophy, but that's not the same as risk trophy. It's
Mm,
trying something. Yeah.
I like that. I like,
I know for myself, my older sister was valedictorian, like elementary school, middle school, high school, college. Like she was always the top student. And it's been quite a challenge for her to like in the workforce because she's used to just knowing everything right away and excelling in it.
mm-hmm,
So she feels stuck in academia because that's where she knows she excels and it's too scary. So she's like in her like fifth doctorate now because it's
mm,
too scary for her to try, you know, a job where she's not going to be the best, where it's going to have different talents. And I was an AB student or and sometimes C or whatever it was, but I definitely didn't ace everything the way that she did. And I think that was so helpful for me because I was already used to not doing well all the time.
mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
Yeah, it was just reminding me of a quote that I kind of put out like just earlier today. It was like, if you know that you're going to succeed for sure, like, would you show up and do the things that you need to do, the actions you need to take in order to win? And of course, we're going to have struggles, but would it be as fun if it was just handed to you? Like, I don't,
Totally.
think it'd be as fun if there wasn't that like challenge, I think, of really like putting yourself out there, pushing yourself, taking the risks. I,
Yeah.
yeah, once we can like lighten it up and like be playful with it, it can actually be fun as opposed to like
Yeah.
being so scary, which is what I
Yeah.
find myself of. I'm like
Totally.
myself.
For me, it's this feeling of would I rather suffer through the pain of the discipline of it or the pain of the regret around not trying?
Hmm.
And yeah, like for me, it's like I know it's gonna be hard. I know I'm gonna fail, especially if it's something new. I'm not, there's gonna be a learning curve. I'm gonna have a lot of many failures, but would I rather look back and have not tried because I avoided failure? And that's not the case. I'm always really happy when I tried something, even if I didn't do well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good.
Mhm.
I too really resonate with that fear of coming to the end of my life and not doing the things that I wanted to do just because I was afraid.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, this is definitely going to be a year for me of like just
Mhm.
really stepping out more and taking risks. And I mean, I've already done more since we've like worked together and, put myself out there. I got a few more clients and
Yay.
yeah, just really stepping more into my gifts and talents this year. And um, I'm curious, how did you get started with this work?
Hmm. Yeah, it was total accident. I wanted to be an accountant when I was in high school. Like I was gonna choose the safest path possible. And I went to a what I thought was a meditation workshop because I was going through a really hard time in college, and it ended up being a energy healing certification program. And at the end of the 3 days, I was like, that was total crap. And I can't believe people sell this. And I can't believe people buy this. And it's just people are selling scams. And I was really upset about it. And what ended up happening was during those 3 days, I worked on when I was the client for the group, I wanted to work on my PCOS. I had like hormonal issues. And after 2 weeks, after that course that I thought was total crap, I got my period for the first time in 6 months.
Wow.
And my skin started clearing up. I had really bad acne. Like my skin started clearing up. My symptoms started going away. And like it was like I directly worked on it. And when that happened, I was like, shit, oh no. Either
Uh-huh.
that means I have to like rewire my entire belief system, or I'm going to pretend that that didn't happen, that I just magically got my PCOS just went away. And I was going to, had this choice of like, do I ignore what just happened, or do I try to figure out how to integrate that and then potentially be a weirdo? And I've decided like, it's okay. I'm just a weirdo now.
So that's really cool to hear that like not only does it work in like business concepts, but it also works on your physical body as well. Like
Yeah.
do you find they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. I mean, my whole life is just looking at things as systems. You
Mm.
know, eating gluten affects your finances.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Wow.
conversations you had with your brother on a Thursday is going to affect your gym session on Monday. Like things are always affecting each other. And not in any way to say that things are excuses for one another, but in a way to shed the light of where can I take more responsibility for myself? Where do I, if I know that I'm going to be exhausted after I eat a sandwich, like maybe that's a Thursday night activity and not a Sunday night activity because it'll affect my week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really resonated with me. My boyfriend is gluten intolerant and
Mhm.
I'm starting to suspect that I might have some sensitivity to it. So that really hit home when you said that. I was like, I need to pay more attention to
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to share about
Hmm.
the work that you do?
Yeah. I run 3-month constellation courses for women called bushwhacking, which is a hiking term when there's no path and you kind of have to run through bushes. And it's a little bit of a play on word of like the feminine ability to create a new path for herself. And what it's going to be is every single week, it is using a different part of just figuring out the places that we've relinquished our powers and taking it back, and also B, learning how to trust our own channels and our own paths and our own intuition. And then the final part is not being afraid of our own power,
Mm,
because most women are terrified of their own power, that they give it away,
mm.
and really learning that it's we can hone our own power and we can hold it in a way that's not destructive and quite creative.
Wow,
Yeah.
really, really cool. I like that a lot. I also have had themes of power and struggling and fearful of my power a
Mm,
lot in the past, and it was something that was really kind of resonating with me actually over Halloween. Have
mhm.
you watched the Mayfair Witches at all? Have
I
you?
haven't.
Okay. So like I was watching this movie series called The Mayfair Witches, and they had there was witches and vampires and demons, and they all were kind of dying off. And there was the main character was this witch who like didn't know that she had power because she kind of like suppressed it and like didn't want anything to do with it, because I think at one point it scared her or she thought like she might hurt people, and it was like it was coming back around for her and everyone could feel her power. And then once she started kind of going with the idea of like, okay, like maybe I have this power for a reason, it's not
Mhm.
potentially to like hurt people, then she was able to kind of start meeting the people that she needed and the mentors that she needed to help her with her weaving in the world, and to find her own power. And she found that like she kind of had put a spell on herself until it was time for her to use her power. And I don't know, it just really resonated with the main characters. I love like looking at characters in movies and seeing how I can relate to them and step into that archetype more. So my power,
Totally.
or one that like I've played around with a lot over this past season. So that really resonates with me.
That.
So,
I
uh,
love that.
yeah.
And that's also like all of these shows and movies, also Wicked is so pertinent to that,
Oh
of
my God.
this women realizing that they're powerful. And
Mm.
we're powerful in multiple ways. Like Alphaba was powerful in the sense that she had powers, and Glinda was powerful in the sense that she had social powers. And both of them were witches. You know, both of them had magic to them. And really realizing that a woman's power, she has a light power and a dark power. That Glinda's like the light. We can be social, we can be people pleaser, we can manipulate. The way
Mm.
that women are afraid of men because of their physical strength, men are terrified of women because of our energetic strength. We can get anything we want. And then we have our dark side, which is actual like the energetic power. We can create life in our bodies. Like we have crazy superpowers, and especially in the work of energy healing and um, family constellations. Somebody asked me once if I like believed in miracles. I was like, I work with magic every single day. Like, of course, I work with the inexplainable. And I absolutely 100% believe that we have powers. We can really defy gravity. We can bend reality. We can create things with our mind, with our spirit, with our energy. And now, especially with Joe Dispenza's work, like we are catching up scientifically to start explaining that.
Mm.
Like, I think what's happening with AI is just a physical representation of also the fast, accelerated extension that's happening in the energetic world as well, because that's happening too.
Yeah, I can so see that for sure. And I've been loving AI even in my business, just kind of
Mhm.
using it. I call it my little assistant. I was telling
Yeah, yeah,
her. And yeah, it's really helped me to feel more like comfortable and confident of even being able to like put things out that like before you might have to, you know, send away to someone else or like spend a really long time trying to like
yeah,
study and figure out what to do. And AI just makes it a little bit more easier. So I've really appreciated AI,
totally.
the with the limited that I've used it or whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the 3 month program, and you also have a website I've been to.
hmm And I also have a 6 month or 6 month membership for She Rises, which is my female entrepreneurship program. And that's also not just the energetics of how to create a business, but also just the practical, like, this is what you need in your Excel sheets, and this is how you manage the finances, and this is what an offer is, and all of that, like just the practical things, which I love teaching because I've been building a business for 10 years. So it's really fun to be able to give over everything I've learned. And I do one-on-one work as well. Yeah.
Very cool. I love that you offer the practical stuff, because I know a lot of times when people are first stepping into business, especially the creatives and the visionaries are like, ah, did you say the word Excel sheet? Like,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I love that, because I feel like sometimes it's so great having it both together, because I feel like you've got to go one place, to find the mindset, and one place to find the strategy. And so I
Yeah.
think it's great when you can
Totally, totally. And I'm really just bringing in from experiences of like I've like hired coaches hoping that they were going to help me with my business, and then they would just say like use your intuition. I was like, I don't know how to build a business. That's not an intuitive thing. It's
Right.
it's an MBA. It's like it's a skill set, and skill set is not the same as intuition.
Mm.
And like what I really love about Cheer Eyes is we really move between like what are the practical energetic skills you need, like how to take in rejection, because you're going to get rejected a lot. And also, what's the practical, like how often do you message people? What do you message people? Just like all the things that you need to know to automate a business. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Well,
All
I will
right.
link that in the notes when I publish
Mhm.
the podcast. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Really appreciate it.
I feel very honored and blessed to talk to you about what's going on in your life and the ways that it has impacted me just the short time that we've talked and hopefully,
Mhm.
will impact the world. So
So
thank
it is. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
yeah. All right. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks.